Hello everyone and welcome back to ETH Market, your weekly look at the amarr market. We're just gonna start straight off with prices, some stuff. Still the war is still going on and, in the north, so this may affect prices on minerals and stuff, because more ships needs to be built, people selling stuff quicker. As a chance, we'll see. Titanium is going up in price, we're sitting clearly above the 6 ISK per unit now for the 5 and 20 day average. Also the mid-day average are clearly above the 6 ISK per unit now. See here a small spike even on the first day, with a drop down a little bit after that. We see also the sun is a little bit lower. But it looks like definitely titanium is starting to crawl slowly up in price. For this, yeah, it's for about like 2 weeks now. So titanium on the high demand. For the sellers, this is a pretty decent size order, 208. Well, decent, it's not huge, but 6.21 for the sellers and 6.09 for the buyers. Slightly higher than last week, 6.07 last week's price. Only slightly higher, not a lot. Heading towards the record price again, by the way. Yeah, very close to that. And ferrite is not being affected, unfortunately. This data point again from someone with a very high price to buy it. But, and again, ferrite seems to be pretty stable on its price. Maybe a very slight downtrend in its price, but not really clear to see. So yeah, sales amount, well, but these sales here for 2 days, and not in a row, there was one calm day in between it, but clearly 2 higher sales right here. But still looks like price is dropping on this. 120 million is not a bad amount. 11.50 for the sellers and 10.65 for the buyers. That's very little higher than last week's. 10.63 was last week's price. So it hardly had no movement in that like titanium. Then we're going for Maxillon. Maxillon definitely moving a little bit more. It even has dropped in price this week, by the way. See it suddenly dropping below the 60 ISK per unit. But also quickly recovering again after 2 days below the 60 to go above the 60 again and staying just above that. 20 days seems to be slowly starting to flat out, so it's maybe gonna stay a few more days around the or just above the 60, or it can go up and down. I'm not sure, because you have a little bit of movement now and then on the Maxillon line. But on average it's staying mainly between the 62 and the 58, with it now and then going a little bit above that. Seller's price 59.15, that's a very low one, but it's also not too many units. For the buyers we are at 57.90. That is a lot lower than last week's price even. 60.22 was last week's price. So it definitely has dropped on that. Then we're gonna look at oxygen, because that was very interesting what last week's was. And whoa, okay. I did not expect this drop here. That's a huge drop for oxygen price. Suddenly there was also a huge bunch being put on the market here, it looks like, of being sold. That's like the double amount than normal, or even more. Even more than double. So this is pushing suddenly the price of oxygen a lot down. You see it completely dropping to, it looks like around 75, a little bit above it even. But oxygen is suddenly making a huge drop in price. Not expecting this drop. I did expect to drop a little bit, but not this amount. You can clearly see the seller's price is still 93.20, so that's not a too bad price. It's pretty much sitting on the normal line, but definitely I think for the buyers we have dropped to 86.91. You can clearly see here we should have, this is the average price for today is a little bit here. You can clearly see it's the buyer's price is still sitting more here, so there's a difference in that. But buyer's price now 86.91, new record price for oxygen on the low side, because last week's price we were sitting at 93.05, and that was already in record price for the lowest price, and now it's in 86.91. So definitely a new record price on that for oxygen. There. So oxygen really low on price. I don't expect this one to start dropping a lot more, because there was just a huge sales which fulfilled a lot of buy orders. So it's like 40, 80, I think about 120 million units got sold here in one day. I don't expect this one to drop a lot more. I think it's gonna stay. I think it's gonna not stay more. It's gonna go up in price pretty soon. Of course, it is low. A lot of people want to buy in oxygen. Then oxygen has a bit about the same story as oxygen. Also, bigger sales here, more like double the amount than normal. It also had one here, but that pushed the price up. Now we have a bigger one again here for 2 days. That was on the Thursday and Friday. That's pushing the price down of oxygen. Dropping below the 440 for today, at least. For yesterday and Friday was sitting between around 450. On that it is about 455, I guess. But that made a drop. Also the sales amount seems to be stabilizing again, so I'll probably see the price calling back up pretty soon in the next week again, to head towards a more of a normal price. 450 for the sellers, that's a really low amount, 9,000 units. Really 455 more for the seller's price. And for the buyers, 430.08. Definitely lower than last week's. 459.44 was last week's price. So that had made a drop getting close to a new record price, but it didn't make it yet. We're missing about 5 isks on that, but it didn't make it towards the lowest price. So I expect this one definitely in the next half of the week to start to go up again. Shine again, someone dumped a load on the market here for 3 days almost. This one is not too bad, a little bit higher than normal, but then the other 2 days also a pretty huge amount being sold. This first sale did not affect the price at all. The second one also not, it even bumped the price up higher. And the third one did push the price down to below the 1100 per unit for Zynoid. But then again, the next day on the Saturday we are recovering again towards a normal drop in price. Except for today we're sitting a lot lower and already a pretty huge amount of sales on Zynoid here. We're sitting already at the normal amount per day. We are almost 940 even, so sitting at the normal price. This is definitely going to go up higher today and probably not a big sales. It's maybe going to push the price even more down for Zynoid. So Zynoid on the drop for the sellers, 1157.82, and for the buyers 1025.14. Getting really low on the Zynoid price. Last week's price 1151.57. So definitely we are dropping again on this price. I don't know how many more sales are gonna be, because we are sitting already today for a pretty high amount of sales. If there's gonna be more people, again this spike up, the price will get pushed down even more. But I cannot really say there's a huge amount of sales being dropped on the market. Megasite, there's nothing happening here really, pretty stable on the price. Seems to be a very slight drop. At least nobody has put any Megasite on the market, not like Zynoid, Noxium and Oxygen. So this one is really stable. Sorry. While stable, it is slightly dropping. It seems to be dropping and then recovering again, another drop, recovering. On average, it seems to be pretty stable. At least the line is hardly dropping. I can hardly tell if it is even dropping. That's a big amount of units, almost 1 million units. 1142 for the sellers and 1,030 for the buyers. Hardly any drop in price. 1,131.91 was last week's price. So hardly any drop on that. Zuinen and Megas are still really close together on the price. What this one's gonna do next week, I think, is just gonna go on for a normal line. What is happening now? So it's a slight drop in price on that. Then the last mineral is Morphite for this week. See if there was any sales here. Definitely there was a bigger sale here. That's almost a week ago. This Sunday, Saturday, Friday, Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday, we had a big amount of sales of Morphite here. Did not really have an effect on the price, even on the other part. It went up in price. After that it dropped again. See then for the end of this week, seen the price a little bit more going up high, above the 10,300 per unit. Today we are at 10,100 again. Very bumping around. On average we are dropping in price for Morphite. 10,349 for the sellers. Almost 9,999 for the buyers. That's even slightly higher than last week. 9,820 was last week's price, so we went slightly up in Morphite price on the buyers. Then we go on for some regular salvage around this region. Armor plates did starting to crawl a little bit up in price this week. Did had a higher price here. That's about a week ago. But you can see it for today. We're already starting to drop again. But then again, half the amount, even not half an amount, has been sold, but normally been sold. But yeah, armor plates did make a little bit of an up on the weeks. It started to drop yesterday already. Slightly, not a lot, but started dropping. So expecting this one today is sitting lower too. So it's starting to make a drop again in price. 92,488 for the sellers. That's more than 500 units. And for the buyers, 81,300. That's a drop. 84,000 was last week's price for that. And this is a new record price for armor plates on the low side. It's beat it by 300. So 81,600 was the highest price I have recorded on this since 2015 that I started recording the prices. So the armor plates has a new record lowest price here in amarr at the moment. Then we go on for burn logic circuits. Burn logic circuits did make a slight drop this week. Was pretty high last week, I think. Yeah, was pretty high last week around this one, 50,000 per unit. But it's starting to make straight away a drop again. Drop below the 48,000 per unit, but it's time to recover slightly again at the 48,000. Today we're seeing slightly higher, but too early to say what it's gonna do on average price. But it seems to be pretty much stable around the 48,000 per unit at the moment. 53,000 for the sellers, 48,000 for the buyers. That's a drop. 50,014 was last week's price. So that's a drop in price for burn logic circuits. Fried interface circuits stayed pretty much stable this whole week. Except for the end of the week, for the last 3 days, we starting to make a drop in price. Not really due to sales, but it is dropping. Heading towards the 3,800 per unit. Tried to get there Friday, didn't reach it. Saturday we were sitting a little bit higher than the Friday. Today we do seem to reach that price. And it's time to try to make a drop on this. 3,900, that's surprisingly only more than 500 units for the sellers. Not too far off the buyers. 3,832 for the buyers. That is a little bit lower than last week's. 4,011 was last week's price, so it has dropped a bit on that, but not too much, about 170 drop on that price. But Friday Interface Circuit seems to be trying to drop in price again. I'm not sure if it's gonna reach it. That I'll keep on going for that. Melted capacitor consoles had another huge sales here this week. It's like triple the amount than normal, or almost even a little bit more than triple the amount, looks like it. Normal is around 20,000, so it's 60,000 here on one day at least. To see exactly what has been sold on that day, the amount 68,500 even on that day it's been sold. Pretty high amount, and this is also straight away pushing the price up to 9,500 per unit almost. Sitting between 9 and 9,500 per unit now. It seems to be staying around that price at the moment. 9,650 at least for the sellers and 9,251 for the buyers. Yeah, there's an increase. Last week's price was 8,800. So definitely has been increasing in price. Still no beating on the record price. It's saying about 500 off. Trip Power Circus had a record price last week on the low side. Let's see what it's doing this week. We had a high price here earlier this week at 23,000 per unit. Not really a high sales amount on that day. That came the next day after that, but pushed the price even down towards 22,000. And after that it started dropping more towards 21,000 for today. Sitting even at the moment around 20,500 per unit. That is pretty low, but still early day. But it seems definitely starting to drop again. After this spike here, for 2 days a higher price went up, at least up in price. After that we start straight dropping again, and seems to be keep on dropping. So Trip Power Circus seems to be on the drop. 22,000 for the sellers, 20,022.56 for the buyers. That is definitely a new record lowest price for this. 21,145 was last week's price. That was already a record price. And now we have again a record price on this. For that, and that's since I recorded the prices for this year and even all together. Is this a record price? Then for the last one is Plex. What is Plex doing? Plex is still dropping, and it seems to be we're heading for today below the 1 billion is for a Plex. Plex is definitely dropping for like more than a month now. You can see also the whole week it has been dropping in price. Yesterday we were staying just above the 1 billion. At the moment for today we are sitting below the 1 billion is for a Plex. So Plex is really dropping. Let's see at the prices. For the sellers we're sitting about 1 billion and 20 million for a Plex. For the buyers we're still sitting above the 1 billion. 1 billion and 990,000. So we are really getting close to start crossing the 1 billion mark. Or drop below, even drop below the 1 billion. If it drop below, we're going straight toward 995 million is for a Plex. We're getting close to it. There's still a decent amount of Plexes up here that people want to buy. There's even a big one here for 14. Someone that's maybe expecting the price to go up. I doubt it if it's go up. CCP keep having Plex sales 10% off. It's dropping this price still. I think CCP want to have the Plex more around the 1 billion or even lower. But definitely it is dropping on price. It's at least lower than last week's price, because last week's price was 1 billion and 19 million. So there's definitely a new... it's not a new lowest price, because that is way lower still, but not even close to that one. If I want to beat the record price on the lowest price, we need to cross the 886 million. That's a really old price. It's about a year old. So this was this week's look at the amarr market. Hope you liked the video. If you have anything you want to see, I want to follow on the market here, please let me know down in the comments, because I will follow it then for about a month. If you think it's something important that needs to be followed always, same thing, put it down in the comments below and I will add it to my list. So thanks for watching and see you all next week. Fly safe.